Is poor communication between pilots in the cockpit a contributing factor in plane crashes? Well, that is what the latest season of the popular HBO show The Rehearsal set out to investigate, using a replica of an airport terminal, giant puppets, and even cloned dogs.
I've been studying commercial aviation disasters as a hobby, and I started to notice a disturbing pattern in the causes of these crashes. 15 years ago, you recommended role-playing exercises. The FAA
said no. For whatever reason, they're just not going there.
In order to make change, it's going to take something different.
Mr. Fielder, where does your sense of altruism come from, where all of a sudden you want to save lives? You're known for pranking.
This is not sincere.
We should note that CNN and HBO are both owned by the same parent company, Warner Brothers Discovery. Here with us now, comedian, 737 pilot, and host of The Rehearsal, Nathan Fielder, and aviation safety expert and former National Transportation Safety Board member, John Guglia. He served under Presidents Bill Clinton and George W. Bush. Thanks to both of you for joining us. For those of our viewers who have seen the show, in this interview, I'm going to be the first officer, Blunt.
And I'm going to be Captain All Ears.
You understand what we're saying?
Yes, I mean, that's what we talk about, communication in the show.
So we're playing roles right now.
Yeah, we are role playing.
Well, I'm guessing you have
interview.
to do this. Okay, well, I think that's good. You know, I also think, Wolf, that like the issue that we talk about in the show is people not wanting to share their feelings with each other, co-pilots, because one might be of more experience than the other, so they might know the thing that will save a plane from crashing, but they might not want to communicate it.
Nathan,
so I assume between you two,
we like each other and we talk to each other.
But there's things you probably don't share too. So that's a good way of the audience understanding the dynamic, probably, right?
Really, he should be the captain, is what you're saying. That's really what
Let's
you're saying.
talk
Did you watch the show?
Of course.
I did too.
You knew that. You watched all of it.
Everybody's watching the show.
Great,
it's
thank
a very
you so
popular
much.
show.
Wow, so
you guys
exciting.
are doing great.
Well,
You're known for comedy, as we all know, Nathan.
Yeah.
What made you decide to investigate a very serious matter like this?
Well, the show is still comedy, but also this is a serious thing. But I've been just interested in commercial airline crashes just for a while, just as like a hobby. I sort of just read about them.
Oh, you fly a lot?
Like as a passenger?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I fly normal, like planes, like everyone.
So you're concerned about airline safety?
Well, I don't want to die but
we don't want
I mean,
you to die
I'm
either.
concerned the same as everyone. But I started to notice, and there's a TV show in Canada about crashes too that I watch, but I started to notice that they can always solve the technical stuff when a crash happens. You know, they work really hard to make sure that type of accident doesn't happen again. But for the human factor in communication, the thing keeps happening where there's miscommunication between pilots. And I talked to John about this, and John obviously, you know, he just got inducted into the Aviation Hall of Fame, by the way.
Congratulations.
So
Congrats.
it's a big thing, and we're really excited about that.
So in aviation,
But,
we've
yeah.
long known that communications has been an issue, and we have dealt with it effectively through crew resource management. But what Nathan has uncovered was a little sliver that has fallen through the cracks with this communications disconnect between pilots. And when he first came to me and mentioned that to me, it immediately caught fire with me, because I've seen it. I've flown in many, many, many cockpits. I've seen the scenario that he presented over and over again. And in fact, I want to take his scenario. I teach school at Vaughn College in New York City, an aviation school. I plan on taking that show to my students, because they're up and coming aviation people, to show them and use it as an example of what they should not do and that they need to speak up.
So clearly there's concern. You lay it out in the show. We reached out to the FAA to see what it had to say about all of this. And it told us that it mandates all airline pilots and crew members to complete interpersonal communication training. And it says it isn't seeing the data that supports the show's central claim that Pilot Communications is to blame for airline disasters.
Well,
So I
that-
want to get
there-
you to respond
yes.
to that, obviously.
That's dumb. They're dumb. And here's the issue is that they do, like I trained to be a pilot and I'm a 737 pilot. I went through the training. The training is someone shows you a PowerPoint slide saying, if you are a co-pilot and the captain does something wrong, you need to speak up about it. That's all. That's the training. And they talk about some crashes that happened, but they don't do anything that makes it stick emotionally and makes you like, so pilots think they'll act a certain way in an accident, but like the crash that just happened here, it seemed like they saw that was sort of the issue, right?
A lot of disconnects between multiple parties. And
So you've seen evidence that a lack of communication, if you will, between a pilot and a co-pilot in the cockpit has caused a crash,
are not contributed
has contributed to a crash.
to a
That's
crash.
what they said in that. Do I agree?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that was my whole thing. That's the whole show. But I mean, it's like a human thing. You know what I mean? Like, there's definitely stuff, I'm sure you guys, like you brought up the analogy, but like, I'm sure Pamela, you don't say some things to Wolf or, because you're between you two, who would be like the boss or the more, like you're Wolf Blitzer, right? So you're like, your name is first on the thing. So I'm sure Pamela, at times you might not want to say, oh, Wolf wants to do something, you don't think it's a good idea. You might not want to express that always.
She's very
We
blunt.
actually have a pretty, I understand your
But
point.
you have to say that now.
No. think
I
the
know, but
show-
you
I
don't
think-
want
I
to
think
say to
they're
Wolf, you
producing-
can't, as a journalist, you don't want to
Because
say,
Wolf
oh, I don't want to.
She says that.
She says it to you.
Yeah.
So maybe you're afraid to say
Here's the
something.
great thing
to
about
her.
Wolf is
I'm
he
very
doesn't have
blunt
an
with her,
ego.
too.
Okay.
He has no ego, but I take your point that like
I mean, Wolf's in movies and stuff.
he's a big deal.
He's
There
Mission
is
Impossible.
no question.
So that's intimidating. That can be intimidating.
That can be
Yeah.
intimidating. I
That's
just-
sort of the thing we're trying to explore a little
So what's
bit.
been the reaction to the show?
I know. What do you think of
I'm
it?
asking you.
Oh, I don't know.
Ask me.
Ask
Oh,
you.
ask John.
It's exploded. My emails exploded. My messages exploded. My grandkids were all over me. I mean, it's unbelievable, the response.
So I want to go a little bit deeper into the show, to you, Nathan. So to better understand pilots, you did what you called a personality transfer, where you tried to live as Captain Chesley Sully Sullenberger. Of course, that is a pilot of the Miracle on the Hudson. And this was actually my favorite part of the season when you channeled baby Sully
Thank you.
right here. So why was that so important to rehearse his entire life?
Well, in the Miracle on the Hudson flight, Sully actually, he did, there was something I noticed in the transcript where he asked his first officer, like, hey, do you have any ideas? So he sort of opened those lines of communication. And so I'm like, well, this pilot seems to be bucking the trend I've noticed and is uniquely good. So I was trying to sort of understand. He said in his book that his entire life led him to what he did in that flight. So my thinking was, these things, we try things and not everything is going to work. And that's the point. Like sometimes, I think the FAA, which has revealed themselves to be very dumb today with that comment, because I think what we're showcasing in the show is that there's, even though we might not have the exact solution, there's stuff to look at here. And why say that? Because I think,
Let's
it's a little dumb just to be like, that statement, right? What do you think, Wolf?
Is this an issue that the federal government should now investigate full time?
It needs to start. CRM has been an effective tool in the cockpit. We need to look at it in the light of CRM and see if we need to put a module in there that deals with
That's
this.
the training program
Right,
you're talking
as
about.
for training.
And do you think
And I
there
think
should be
what we-
more role-playing training? You said
no question.
in the rehearsal that you would actually propose that
Yes.
when you were in and that they rejected it. So you
Right.
think there needs to be more. What do you make of the fact the FAA says, well, there isn't data? I mean, obviously we know where Nathan comes down on this, but what do you think about the fact, as a former government official, that there's not the data to back this up?
A government official that's been frustrated with the FAA's response to NTSB recommendations. All right, the ostrich syndrome is alive and well.
Ostrich
Yeah,
syndrome? What's that?
bury your head in the sand.
Oh, right.
Oh, okay,
All
there you
right?
go.
Then defend, deflect, and deny is their mantra.
So just to go back
So we
to
got to get, what do you do then? Trump's got to do something, or
No,
what?
too high. You need to build the foundation.
We're building the foundation.
Right.
Building the foundation, coming on this show. Obviously, you've been appealing to Congress. Go
Yes,
ahead.
and that's what I was hoping to demonstrate with the Miracle over the Mojave, which is the flight that I flew in the show to show communication between pilots, that people can see that two pilots trying their best to communicate, it's still a struggle. And fortunately, in that flight, nothing else critical happened. So I think when the communication lines up with a real potential emergency, that's when it could make all the difference. And so, fortunately, I landed the plane safely and saved 150 lives that day. And so I think the hope is that the FAA will look at this stuff and the Miracle over the Mojave and be like,
But
yeah.
you think this has been going on over multiple administrations? This isn't just a Trump administration issue.
No, this goes back. I mean, we started the show under the Biden administration. I mean, John has worked for,
Over 30 years ago,
yeah.
I have a perfect example.
Okay.
Over 30 years ago, I was flying in the cockpit on the jump seat. Right? The captain was a good friend of mine. Haven't seen him in months. We get in, I show up the airplane late. We're ready to go. He starts chatting to me. We get up to the runway. He virtually stops talking on the runway. We take off. But immediately after we retract the gear, he starts chatting again. And I let it go for a little bit. First officer never said anything. Finally, I said to him, 10,000 feet. Let's redo him at 10,000 feet.
It's illegal to have chatter below 10,000
Right.
feet.
So, but he wanted to chat. I shut him up, and we moved on. Right. So there's all sorts of interplay in cockpits that happen routinely that we need to focus on. And that 10,000-foot rule for communications is one of the golden rules.
It's interesting. I know you came here to Washington, Nathan, for the show where you met with Democratic Congressman Steve Cohen. He's the ranking member on the House Aviation Subcommittee. That meeting apparently didn't appear to go very well. In a statement to CNN, the congressman said this, and I'm quoting him now. He says he's disappointed with that meeting, saying his team was told you wanted to talk about autism and the difficulties people with the condition could have in an airplane crash. He also says most of the substantive parts of your interview never made it in the show. What are you hoping to get from that meeting? What were you hoping to get from that meeting? And have you spoken with other lawmakers here in Washington?
Well, I actually think that I tried to point out with similarities between autism, masking, and what is happening with pilots in the cockpit. And he is on the aviation subcommittee, so and I think he works in that area too. So I was trying to draw a connection and really bring up this important issue. And it's disappointing that he's sort of saying this now because he still has an opportunity to tackle this issue. He's the ranking member on the aviation subcommittee. And so I don't understand why. I mean, honestly, to be honest, he didn't seem to know a lot about, when I brought up CRM, which is this issue, he didn't seem to really be aware of it and the specifics. So look, I wasn't going to bring that up because but he seemed to come at me a little here that, so I feel like we brought him a good thing. And, I don't know what the power is of these lawmakers because, but
He's in the minority. Only the chairman of the committee can call witnesses.
But he can talk to the guy,
can
right?
talk
He
to
knows
the-
the
he-
chairman.
of
And
course
he
he
could be
can.
like, look, this guy, this guy who's a pilot, 737 pilot, came to me with this very important issue. Maybe we should look at this a little more. And now that the show is out, he could show it to the ranking member. So that would be good. But I would say it's disappointing that he didn't want to take this more seriously.
When we reached out to the congressman, he did reference the FAA training manual.
What do you mean?
What was going on, how to prepare
Yeah,
for these kinds of situations.
They talk to pilots about this, but they don't train them.
Right, because you're saying
You know
it
what
was
I
just
mean?
like a PowerPoint.
It's I
You're
could tell you,
That's-
Pamela, you
that's
got to
where you're
speak your
coming
mind
from.
to Wolf.
Right.
You got to be careful. Don't be afraid of him. I could tell you that, but are you going to do it?
Right, and
Just
you-
because I say it, you need to
Reinforce it.
reinforce it. And we showed, I think, they might not be the solution, but I think we showed some simple ways that this could be done cheaply and easily that could help. And so why not try it? That's what John and I are saying. Like, just someone's got to like look into it.
Right.
You
And
know,
actually,
HBO only wants to
I want to.
fund it so much because it's like they want the entertainment value of it. So
I'm going to jump in here as Captain Olliers here.
Okay.
Okay.
sure.
So,
Captain Olliers is the one that listens.
Oh,
That's Blunt.
okay.
First Officer Blunt.
Okay,
would
really
be the one.
quickly. I
She's
think
all ears.
I'm all ears though.
Okay.
We have this picture. I wanted to get this in before we go. We have a picture, actually, not just of the statement, but of when you took off in the 737.
Yes.
You had been practicing in a simulator. This is the first time you were actually flying the real plane. Do we have this picture, guys? And there was a flock of birds right here.
Oh, yes.
And this is like
so
what
this
you would
is
train.
Our still photographer captured this. And this is a flock of birds, and we narrowly, I guess, missed this. I didn't realize when we were flying, but once we got on the ground and I saw the photo, and you can see it in the show too, we narrowly missed the flock of birds, and if birds get in the engines, that could shut down
well,
the engines.
We know what happened with Sully. Good thing you practiced that.
And cause a real emergency. Well, exactly. But also, it shows why communication is important, because if that did happen, like, we landed the plane with the Miracle on Mojave safely and all that, but if the birds hit our engines and we actually had an emergency, communication could make the difference between getting down safely or not, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it makes all the difference.
All right.
And
Could
so
potentially save a lot of lives.
Save
And
a
I
lot
know
of lives.
you're not only an actor and a comedian, you're a pilot.
I'm a pilot.
You're still
pretty
flying.
impressive.
You started working for a
737.
company flying the 737s.
Yes,
Oh,
yeah,
I
I
heard.
do some ferry flights for like a company still where
Yeah.
I'll, transport empty planes around the world.
Amazing. Well, thank you.
I do
Thanks
want to
for
say
coming in.
thank you, and I want to say too, this is just something that I think is important to say, because, I think these days, like, a lot of people will go to like, alternative news sources or like comedy podcasters to get the word out about stuff, like Joe Rogan or Theo Vaughn. But for me, it's still CNN all the way.
Thank you.
So
And
thank you for
us to.
That
For you
means a
too.
lot.
Thank you so much.
Nathan.
Hey, guys,
We
keep up the
really
good work.
appreciate
Thank you.
that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.